There are careers that arrive like a soft drum roll and careers that arrive like a cannon. And then there are careers that arrive quietly, sharpen themselves in the dark, and then, when the world is finally paying attention, explode into a kind of authority that rewrites how people talk about the position.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander steps back and buries it.
SGA met him at the eighth now.
Pulls up, jump shot. There it is. 50 points for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's story is not a single eruption. It's a long, carefully tended conflagration, a beginning in Hamilton and Toronto, a brief, bright apprenticeship in Kentucky.
Wow, so silky smooth.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, his control, the way he plays under with poise, he can play. He's got that winner's mentality.
A rookie season that felt like a teaser, a trade that almost every franchise now calls one of the most consequential in recent history, and finally, a full-blown ascension to the summit of the NBA. By the time the Thunder left their last arena, lights dimmed after a title run, Shai had become the type of player who forces the entire sport to rephrase how it measures elite guards. Not because he checks every old box, but because he creates new ones.
For the first time in 25 years, the same player won the regular season MVP, the scoring title, and now here's your finals MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
He won the league's highest individual prize, he led the league in scoring, he carried his team to its first title since the franchise settled in Oklahoma City, and he arrived on the other side of all that as an unmistakably modern superstar, built for the era he helped define. If you want a hook, put the heavy facts up front. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was named the NBA's most valuable player for the 2024-25 season, and he did it in a way that left the box score breathless. A scoring title, a finals MVP, and a championship that stitched together the most powerful threads of modern basketball conversation. These are not shallow accolades. Winning the MVP in a league that values both efficiency and impact is one thing. Leading your team to a title and being named finals MVP in the same season is another entirely. For Shai, the story was both personal and institutional. Individually, he became the final proof that a guard can be a gravitational center in the age of positionless defense. Institutionally, his rise validated the Thunder's rebuild. The draft picks that were acquired in the 2019 trade, the patience with youth, and the willingness to center a franchise around a player whose best work is architectural rather than merely spectacular. These facts are the spine of the story. They're heavy and they resonate because they changed outcomes where outcomes matter most. Let's lay out the origin because the origin explains the present. Shai was born in Toronto and raised in Hamilton, Canada, a city that didn't, until recently, have a parade of NBA hopes on its resume. He was a multi-school high school standout who landed at Kentucky for one season, showing flashes of a guard whose handle and frame suggested more growth than college stat lines could show. He entered the 2018 NBA draft and was chosen 11th overall by the Charlotte Hornets, then immediately traded to the Los Angeles Clippers, and a year later he was traded to Oklahoma City in the blockbuster deal that sent Paul George to the Clippers. That trade, the kind of trade that changes trajectories, put a young, fluid guard into a franchise willing to build around him, and the rest is the patient business of development. Minutes, shots, failures, film sessions, and incremental trust. The Clippers gave him a window. Oklahoma City gave him a mandate. What distinguishes Shai on film and in the numbers is the way his game combines surface elegance with subterranean craft. He moves like a taller guard and thinks like a floor general. His footwork is both poetry and utility. A head fake here, a change of pace there, a tiny step to bait a help defender, then a fatal inside-out enter to a mid-range pull-up or a short floater. He is a player who can explode off 2 feet and suddenly convert energy into control. He uses length and timing to defend multiple positions, and his handle allows him to attack off the dribble against both quick point guards and bulkier wings. On the offensive end, he is not a one-trick pony. You'll see him finish through contact with soft touch, step back with a compact 2, and pivot for pull-ups that feel less like improvisation and more like premeditated artistry. In a league obsessed with three-point gravity, he is a reminder that craft inside the arc still creates value, both for him and for the shooters who live off his attention. The modern defense must choose: stop him at the rim and give up threes, or step out and risk his mid-range accuracy. That choice breaks teams more regularly than any single scouting report suggests. The Thunder's narrative arc and Shai's personal evolution became entangled in a way that made both stronger. Oklahoma City is a franchise that learned how to rebuild the right way, not by buying stars after they're past their best, but by accruing young talent, protecting draft capital, and letting the roster's chemistry be discovered on the court. The 2019 trade that sent Shai to OKC returned draft picks that later became the nucleus alongside him. Players like Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren, youngsters who fit the new Thunder identity: length, switchability, shot creation around the rim, and a defensive hunger that matched Shai's cunning. With those parts, Shai's game was no longer tasked with single-handed salvation. It could become the nervous system of a team that moved his energy into blades of offense and pockets of defense. The Thunder's best days were built through drafting and the kind of patience that confounds short-term narratives. When the team eventually climbed to the top of the standings, it felt less like a miracle and more like a patient, inevitable consequence of a well-executed plan. If you want iconic scenes to hang your montage on, begin with the nights he turned the stopwatch into a narrative device. There were stretches in the 2024-25 regular season when he was seemingly unstoppable. Strings of 30-point nights, mid-season bursts where he became the engine of a franchise record winning streak, and stretch games where his on-ball command left defenses oscillating like a metronome trying to catch his beat. Fans will point to specific box scores, 50-point games, 45s, and they will be right to mention them. Single nights are the currency of highlight reels. But the deeper case is his endurance. He piled up 20-plus scoring games in a volume that not only led the league, but also produced the kind of consistency necessary to carry a team deep into the playoffs. That scoring title was not plucked from thin air. It was the compounding result of film study, improved range, and an insistence on pick-and-roll mastery that turned routine possessions into advantageous mismatches. The playoffs are always the defining ground for narratives about legends. Shai's postseason in that championship season reconfigured what a guard's responsibility looks like in the playoffs. It's one thing to drop 30 in a regular season game. It's another to do it when defenses double, switch, and gamble on every possession with the knowledge that one mistake tilts outcomes. He delivered series after series of heavy lifting, not only top scoring nights, but also enormous moments where he made the right play. The pass instead of the hero shot, the slow drive into designed help, the late clock pull-up that became a signature competency. In certain postseason stretches, he produced records no one expected, stacking 30 and 5 outputs and producing a clutch repertoire that included pull-up threes, step-backs, and stretches where his finishing through contact took over narratives. Those playoff performances took regular season theories about his game and proved them in the more ruthless laboratory of April and May. When the trophy ultimately changed hands, the finals MVP was a formal recognition of the reality everyone watching already felt. He wasn't only statistically excellent, he was decisive when the margin was thinnest. Part of what makes Shai so fascinating, and what make him a modern prototypical star, is his blend of aesthetic and analytic superiority. The highlight package is one thing: spin moves that leave defenders flailing, baseline floaters that kiss the glass, step-backs that find the right arc. The analytics are another. His usage rate at his peak seasons balanced with effective field goal percentages that indicated not mere volume, but smart volume. Advanced metrics loved him because he created value for teammates. When he attacked and defenses collapsed, the Thunder's open 3% rose. When he operated in pick and roll, the team's points per possession increased. He wasn't a statmonger, he was a choreographer. He used his own scoring not to hog the story, but to open it for others. That interplay between aesthetic theatrics and cold machine-like efficiency is exactly what franchises covet in a leader. Of course, the story must honestly account for the tweaks and limits of his game. No elite guard is without blind spots. Shai's shot selection early in his career could wobble when faced with over-aggressive switching schemes. In certain playoff moments, teams daring him to shoot from the logo seemed to slow the Thunder's rhythm temporarily. Defensive matchups remained a chess game. While his length and IQ allow coverage of multiple positions, certain smaller, lightning-quick guards could sometimes force restless moments in isolation. These are not fatal flaws. They are correctable limitations, as his career shows. The Thunder's coaching staff adjusted coverages, they adjusted rotation patterns, and they leaned on the Thunder's front court to protect the seams he could not always plug on his own. Good teams exploit weaknesses. Great teams build a system where those weaknesses become manageable. The Thunder and Shai built a system. A powerful comparative frame sharpens understanding. When you set Shai against historic names and present stars, you learn as much by contrast as by similarity. Compare him to a traditional scoring guard like Kobe or Jordan, and the differences are obvious. Shai does not court isolation in the same obsessive way. He is not the emotional, take-the-last-shot archetype in the same manner. Compare him to pure shooters like Stephen Curry and you see different prime axes. Curry's world is orbital gravity created by deep range. Shai's is gravitational mass, an on-ball pull that distorts the defensive plane. Compare him to LeBron James and you see echoes, the craft of a larger guard who can score, rebound and initiate. But Shai's game is not built on sheer physicality. It's built on internalized movements and a softer, more balletic footwork. When lined up with contemporaries like Luka Doncic or Kevin Durant, the differences again instruct. Luka's game is a blend of playmaking and scoring from a unique creation standpoint. Durant is an otherworldly shotmaker. Shai sits in a corridor between them. He is the guard who can orchestrate and score with surgical regularity, but also fold his defense and create mismatches with a frame that reads like a hybrid forward at times. The comparisons matter because they locate him, not simply as one of the guards, but as an archetype the modern league will build around for a generation. Culture is another arena where his impact registers. He is Canadian, and Canada's basketball story is a rising one. From Steve Nash's early Mamba-like elegance to the flood of international players who now make NBA rosters, Shai occupies a symbolic role. He is a Canadian superstar who pulled an entire country deeper into the sport's orbit. The national pride element is real. When he excelled on the global stage, when he contributed to Canada's medals in FIBA competitions, the country noticed. Young kids in Ontario and beyond began to name him in the same breath as Nash and more recent international stars. For franchises that depend not only on wins but on cultural weight, this matters. He became a face the NBA could showcase in globally expanding markets and a figure around which Canada could rally. That kind of cultural weight is a secret kind of currency. It influences endorsements, global recognition, and the pipeline of future talent from places that believe it can be done. Leadership style is often misread in highlight compilations. Shai is not a swaggering captain who peacocks in press rooms. He leads by doing. Film room, minute management, discreet interventions in practice, and a quiet insistence on standards define his leadership. Younger teammates talk about his example more than his speeches. They point to the way he prepares for opponents. That approach works in modern locker rooms, which often trust leaders who are demonstrably competent and emotionally even-keeled, rather than performative. The maturity with which he handled the heightened stakes of a title run, the kind of steadiness that prevents panic in close games, became a model for how younger stars in the league might manage themselves. In that sense, he sketches a new profile for a franchise player, not only a statistical engine but also the cultural heartbeat who models daily work. If you wanted to build a montage sequence for the piece, pick these shots. A quiet afternoon workout where Shai takes 200 straight mid-range pull-ups, the thunder of his low-post drives, a left-hand finish through a crowd, a no-look pass that sends a teammate into a clean corner three. The slow reaction of a defense that realizes it's been trapped by a single orchestration. Cut those images with the noise of a franchise that had waited, years of mediocre seasons, drafts, and patience, finally finding a star who could marshal both talent and time into result. Those images tell the story without the verbal scaffolding. They show how a player's habits become the engine of a team's identity. Yet the grand narrative must squarely face the larger NBA context. Shai's rise has shifted trade talk, draft philosophies, and how teams value guards. Teams used to build around towering centers or shock-value superstars. Now franchises search for the Shai model, a tall guard with creation instincts, length, and the versatility to attack both in a half-court and in transition. The market responded in contract offers and in front office strategies, supermax talks, aggressive draft protections, and a new premium for perimeter length. That ripple, franchise strategies recalibrated around his skill set, speaks to his real impact. When your career alters how general managers think, you aren't just making highlight reels, you are influencing the architecture of the league. Meaningful narrative also comes from the interplay between the individual and the city. Oklahoma City is a basketball town that knows the gospel of small market success. Build, develop, and defend. Shai embodied that ethic because he did not seek the brightest celebrity headdresses of larger markets until a franchise had been rebuilt around him. He became a hometown hero in a smaller market by giving the franchise a national voice. The relationship between player and city became reciprocal. A city earned a star while the star earned a city. That contract between Shai and Oklahoma City, one of trust, patience, and mutual respect, is increasingly rare in an era of superstar mobility. The Thunder's success is now a blueprint for how small markets can make stars not by throwing money, but by making smart choices and cultivating culture. And what of the future? The files that measure longevity will now have to account for Shai's trajectory. He has entered the rarefied stratum of players who have both peak years and the staying power to make longevity count. The next questions will be about adaptation. How will he evolve when defenses are built specifically to contain him, when younger players with fresh legs become the league's challengers, and when load management takes a toll on instincts? The answer will likely be similar to what we have already watched. He will refine, adjust, and repurpose his court skills. That is the arc of elite players in modern basketball. Those who refuse to be monodimensional move into realms where they teach defenses how to lose. He seems wired to do that. Finally, the aesthetics. Basketball is a visual art and a mathematical one. Shai's game makes both cohere. In the best runs, he looks like a painter with a palette of possibilities. A drive that ends in a soft floater, a pull-up that drops without theatrics, a pass that doesn't need the camera's approval because the result is obvious in the receiver's hands. That look is different from the braggadocio of the dunk or the thunderclap 3. It's quieter, but it's also more dangerous because it is repeatable, and it does not require the crowd to be loud to be decisive. It is the look of a player who knows how to build a victory minute by minute. He makes the game feel inevitable in the best sense, as if the outcome were the logical resolution of well-executed plays rather than a sequence of lucky shots. That is the kind of dominance that ages well in the history books. If you stitch together the string of facts, MVP, scoring title, finals MVP, championship, franchise transformation, cultural impact, you have the bones of a career that will be argued in barbershops and on sports shows for years. But the more essential thing is this. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's rise matters because it changes how teams think about guards, how countries think about player development, and how small market teams think about building icons. He didn't just win awards, he changed the grammar of a position in a way that matters for coaches, scouts, and young players who watch tape at 2 a.m. and decide which move to learn next. So when the camera focuses, linger on the small things. The way he breathes pre-possession, the split-second composition of his eyes when defenders rotate, the way he closes out a possession with a pat on a teammate's back instead of a chest puff for himself. Those are the human moves that make his greatness legible. They are the same tiny rituals that, a decade from now, will become the law young players try to imitate when they want to become more than a scorer, when they want to become architects of winning. This is the story of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, a quiet, relentless ascension from Hamilton to MVP, from traded prospect to franchise savior, from scorer to architect. The Thunder's title was not an accident. It was the end of a long equation that started with a trade and matured with patience, chemistry, and craft. He rewired a franchise's identity, built a national narrative for Canadian basketball, and pushed the league's strategic conversation in a direction it will feel for years. That is what greatness looks like in the modern NBA. Not just the flashes, but the patient accumulation of excellence. The remaking of a system around a single, quietly ferocious will.